Here in Miami, the Unlapped crew getting together in the wine bar, because that's what we do. We just got a chance to debrief after sprint qualifying. First of all, I love a sprint qualifying weekend. Give me the extra drama instead of the extra practice session all the time. But we also got history. How about Kimi Antonelli, pole, the youngest driver in any race format ever. He's only 18 years old. He's a baby on pole. How about that?
Absolutely incredible. I mean, it did feel like it was a matter of time. When he came into the sport,
yes,
we knew just how good he was. But still, to get it together and to beat the McLarens, the McLarens made maybe tiny errors here and there, but there wasn't anything huge.
No.
It wasn't like they left the door open. Kimi had to get his lap together, did that 3/10 ahead of George Russell, who went surprisingly early in the session.
Very early, and then just sat.
Yeah,
I know there was a tire management thing, but still.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure why they did that, because it seems like you get the clean track, but we knew the track is evolving so quickly at this stage of the weekend. So, but yeah, incredible performance by Antonelli.
So good to see it.
And I want to say, I went to watch FP1 with Lawrence trackside earlier, and we saw Kimi go past. We were watching him on the screen, and I said, I didn't tweet it, so it doesn't count.
Here we go.
I said,
Here we go.
Lawrence, I got a good feeling about Kimi Antonelli, and he's like, oh, big shout.
I don't remember you saying that now.
If you had a really good feeling, you should have put a little
well,
he was 60-1
so this
to win the
proves
race.
always, well, maybe not always. Always tweet your feelings. That's not a good idea.
No,
That's terrible advice.
Don't do that.
Usually don't hit
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I'm so scared to tweet anything. But no, there's something about the confidence of Kimi at the moment. He's come in, and what we were told about him from the start was Mercedes kind of prepared us, didn't they, saying it's going to be up and down with him. There's going to be some great highs and maybe some real lows, but we haven't had the real lows yet. There's been a couple of little mistakes here and there, and he's just, he's delivering on such a high level.
He's been consistent. He's been clean.
Yeah, and I mean the only I guess negative you could say is that he's been outperformed by Russell, but I don't think that is a negative because Russell's experience. But this is such a big feather in his cap here. And obviously, if he can convert it into even a top 3 tomorrow, I think it's a massive moment for him.
Do we have to, at any point be like, okay, great, it's a pole. Yes, he's 18. Yes, it's Formula One history, but it is only for the sprint race? Is there an asterisk in your head that...
I mean, I think for the drivers, it doesn't mean quite as much if you've got a bunch of pole positions to your name to then get a sprint one. But because this is Kimi's first time, I think, it is to be celebrated. They still have to go out there. And in some ways, there's more pressure because I know Max did 2 runs in that SQ3, but usually you only get 1 chance. And Kimi only had 1 chance. So to get that all together for a single lap is super impressive. Remember, a bit geeky here, but they went from the medium tyres in SQ1, SQ2, first lap really on the soft tyres, and he delivered. And that's why, for me, it was super impressive.
Yeah. And he's 1 for 1 with Hamilton. 1 sprint pole, 1 sprint pole. Yeah, sorry, dude. You go.
No, you're fine.
Dallin Cuff, jumping in. Come on.
I'll get it. I think that what he did is still impressive. I don't really care what race it is. It's really impressive for him to do it. I do think, not joking, the odds were 60-1 for him to win the sprint race before that. Wow. He's now 2.25 to your money. So that is an insane drop, obviously, with pole. Oscar's still the favorite, though, in that situation, and that's not surprising, but I'm excited to see what he can do now tomorrow. I'm really, with this opportunity, can he get himself on a podium? He did say something funny. My man Zach told us this earlier.
Yeah, that's great.
If they won, they said here in the States, though, you can't drink the champagne. He's underage.
No.
He said
he's
going to find Valtteri. He's going to
Bring
give all the Valtteri. That's the plan. I was like, I love it.
So it could be a big day for Valtteri tomorrow.
Right, exactly.
But also, with the way we've seen races this year, we haven't seen a ton of overtaking at a lot of these places. This place, it's not that renowned for loads of overtaking opportunities.
It's
so
also
if he can stay ahead of the McLarens,
shorter race, so it's less opportunity to make your move. So we don't know what we're going to see. I want to go back to something you said though, because when it comes to Antonelli, yes, he's 18. He's been in a car since he was probably able to crawl. The point of this is his maturity and how he has handled the pressure. Because even if you just take out the fact that this is an 18-year-old in a Formula One car, this is an 18-year-old who is filling the seat for the 7-time world champion who left in Lewis Hamilton. And he has gone out there. He's been clean. He's been consistent. Now he's on pole. And not for nothing, he's also out qualifying Lewis Hamilton week in and week out, because Hamilton in this one was only starting 7th.
Yeah, I mean, the pressure on a driver when they come into F1 is immense. It doesn't matter where you are on the grid. But if you've got that car that has the potential to be right at the very front, that pressure is just magnified so many times. But the great thing about Kimi is, though, Nate, you spent some time in Bahrain.
Yeah.
We talk to him every weekend in his press sessions. He's super relaxed and he's enjoying it, and that's the key. And I tell you what was really nice here as well is that his dad was here, Marco Antonelli.
Yeah.
And you talk about him being at the wheel of a car since he was that high. There's a video online, people should check it out, where he's driving a GT3 racing car on the lap of his father. His father's doing the pedals and he's doing the steering.
It's
So
it's a very trusting dad. That.
Yeah,
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
really, there was probably never any doubt that this day would
It would be
come.
fine.
But yeah, like I said, still so
But
impressive that he's done it.
The thing with Antonelli as well that it reminds me of is when we saw Max 10, 11 years ago come into Formula One at a similar age. I mean, he was slightly younger when he came in. He seemed to be the only one that didn't really see he was like, well, what's the big deal? I'm just driving. And Kimi has that about him. Everyone's like, oh my God, this is amazing. Kimi's like, yeah, I mean, I'm just driving.
I
I've
do
always
think the
been doing it.
parenting styles are a little bit different
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
Antonelli
exactly.
household compared
and yet,
to the
weirdly,
Verstappen
we've
household.
ended up with the same wonder kid kind of thing. So
Right.
yeah, I mean, unbelievable to think what he could achieve. And I think now it's youngest guy to lead a race, youngest guy to have fastest lap in a Grand Prix, and now youngest guy to have pole. I know it's not F1,
But it is in
qualifying
any
pole
race
of
format,
any race.
yes.
So the records are just tumbling, and you're going to see him break a lot more, I think, over the years.
Just one thing to add, though, too. I think it's a big performance for Mercedes overall. George, I don't think the strategy was right for George, but it's indicative of what he may be able to do tomorrow in qualifying. We'll find out if the race pace is any good and have a sense of that from the sprint. But to where they're at in a qualifying situation, they're in the mix there.
The interesting thing, though, with George Russell was he wasn't the only driver that sort of had maybe some questionable strategy when it came to how they managed qualifying. Was there anyone else that surprised you? Like, why are they going now? Why aren't they going now?
Well, I mean, the obvious comparison was Max, who went in SQ3 and did a hot lap, then cooled his tyres down, and then went again. A few drivers had done that through the session, but it meant that you're carrying extra fuel because you've got to go further on that first lap, and then you've still got to perform on the next one. So that was a bit of a surprise, but I think Max probably maximised the performance of that car as he so often does. The other one was Carlos Sainz, right? You were just talking to his manager.
Yeah, we were just talking to his manager, who's his cousin, and I was like, how did that go? And he's like, well, we did one thing in Q1, which was that, the 2 laps. Did something different in Q2, and he was out of the session.
Because
and
that's
Albon
the
was
thing.
in.
When you don't leave yourself the extra time, you don't leave yourself that margin for error, and Sainz went wide, and you lost the lap time. So it's like, you take the gamble because the track does get better as the session goes on. But what happens if you make a mistake? What happens if there's a yellow flag? There is no margin for error.
Yeah, well, Yuki also, too, I think a mistake with him, too.
Same
That little
thing.
window, then they messed up where he literally didn't cross the line to get his lap in. So him finishing, 17th or something on the grid for this is disappointing, but also it's a strategy brick by the group that kind of put him in that situation.
And then there's McLaren. I mean, obviously McLaren, they start second and third. I think that's exactly what we expected of them, maybe to be pole or whatever, but they're right there. Oscar second, Lando third. They're on target for what they've been doing all season.
Yeah, and I think that, like, if you're McLaren as well, and this is why maybe I think Antonelli's got a good chance tomorrow, it's a sprint race. You don't need to go all guns blazing into that turn 1. Those two guys, I think, already are looking at each other. They've got Max behind them as well. Russell's a bit further back. So really, if Antonelli can get into turn 1 early, I think the two McLarens, we know they've got the pace in the car. They know they've got the pace for pole if they can just beat the Mercedes on tomorrow night. So yeah, I think that they still seem to be the quickest team. But what's so interesting right now is every race we seem to get this like tangible little clue that Mercedes are there, and kind of in the position McLaren were in with Red Bull last year, maybe, where they're kind of clipping at the heels a little bit, and McLaren kind of looking back every so often. They're going to keep seeing Mercedes there, I think. And obviously we haven't talked about the new dad on the grid yet, Max, but he's right up there too. So I think McLaren have this fascinating thing at the moment now where they do have the best car, but I think it's kind of marginal, isn't it? And we're seeing it in sessions like that.
It'll be interesting to see how that sort of unfolds over the next couple of races, because again, it's a hard race weekend to really judge because you only have that one practice session before you get to the qualifying. Is there anything that we learned today that we could see play out tomorrow in terms of like the actual qualifying for the actual race?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. The fact that Mercedes throughout the whole of today practiced and then into qualifying looked quick means that I think they are in the running here. We were talking about this on the podcast just yesterday, I think, 2 days ago.
2 days ago.
And
time is a flat circle.
It's in this paddock, time always flies. But yeah, and we were talking about how this circuit should suit them. But the other impressive thing for Mercedes is their Achilles heel last year was when it got hot, the performance just disappeared.
Exactly.
Here it is hot, and so they've been able to get that performance. So that's very positive for them going forward. And if they can start to unlock a little bit more as the season goes on with the first major upgrade as we get to Europe, then perhaps, you were saying earlier, George Russell all of a sudden becomes a title contender.
Right.
Yeah.
So the only other thing that really stood out to me in the qualifying session, and this is I was like, oh guys, we got to talk about this because there are many layers to it. Jack Doohan essentially had a temper tantrum.
A meltdown.
Yeah. He had a meltdown. He had the temper tantrum. So I know what I thought when I was watching it unfold. What did you guys think when you were watching it?
It was a weird one because I don't know what the radio message didn't quite correspond to what I saw, at least on
Right,
the
the thing
on
about
the on
Lawson?
TV, because it looked like it came out and the angle was wrong, and obviously then it gets readjusted. Gasly comes out and a few other cars come out. So I think there was two things going on for Doohan. One is that moment meant he's behind those cars, and obviously that then delays you on the lap. But it was kind of his radio message suggested you either put me out behind Pierre or after. So, and I think when you're in the car, obviously you have a different viewpoint of it. But yeah, interesting radio message in the context of Jack Doohan's season and situation right now, because every single session that Jack Doohan's in is effectively him trying to extend his F1 career, it feels like. So if he has been wrong, that must be pretty tough to deal with. But yeah, what I saw was just a driver coming out a little bit too deep and having to readjust it, but I didn't see the whole thing that he saw, obviously. But yeah, either way, you can see the frustration. And that's really the first time we've heard. I asked Jack Doohan on Thursday, has this all affected you? And he was like, no, I'm immune from all of this stuff around me. It's the first time we've heard any kind of, it's the first time we've heard any kind of any real frustration coming out like that, and it shows you the kind of pressure he's under at the
I
moment.
think he also said, you guys put me out in Q3. Like that's when you're starting to do this stuff,
Right.
that's not a good look.
Yeah, 100%.
I also don't blame him, because
I understand
I
why
may
he's
have
upset,
also
but
felt
you
the
still
same way.
you still have an opportunity to right the wrong, if you will,
Right.
in the cockpit.
Yeah.
But still, that's when I saw it happening, I was like, this isn't just him being disappointed because he thought he had something better. This is the human part of him who is feeling the mounting pressure. He's hearing the rumors. There were many of us who thought he would already be out of the car this weekend in favor of Franco Colapinto. And there are rumors that it'll be Colapinto when they get to the next race in Imola. So when you saw that happen, you're like, it only gives credence to the idea that where there's smoke, there's fire. And he knows obviously more than we do.
Yeah, well, I mean, Alpine addressed this a little bit today and saying that, Doohan's place, as things stand right now, and it was with that caveat, which, you always got to be wary of in Formula One.
Until somebody sneezes 5 minutes later.
Yeah, the Doohan will be there in Imola. But, I mean, they also still are very they haven't denied the fact that Colapinto is on the sidelines and will at some point, or looks like he will at some point, go into that seat. So for Doohan, I mean, every single one of these opportunities he needs to grasp and take. And then when something completely out of your control and in the team's control goes wrong, you can understand why he's getting frustrated with it.
Okay. Who wins the sprint race tomorrow?
Who wins the sprint race? Oscar Piastri plus 130 is the play there, folks.
Stop it,
Sorry.
that's not what I asked. I didn't
That's
hear
who
what
wins.
I
No,
wanted
that's who
you
wins
to
the
know.
race. I'm
Okay.
giving you the odds. He is the favorite from the second position. Head to the bank.
I'm going to do what I wasn't smart
Gamble
enough to do
responsibly.
earlier,
Yeah.
and put it on record. Kimi Antonelli's winning the sprint tomorrow.
Wow.
I'm going with Kimi Antonelli. I think
60-1. You gave up on that, by the way.
I know.
But
I
if
know.
you had these feelings, how
Sick
about
on
you
it.
act on some of these
Yeah,
feelings?
sick about it. We'll go sort it out in a
Blah,
little
blah,
bit.
blah,
Yeah.
blah. You're going with Antonelli?
Yeah, the pace is there in that Mercedes, and I think over a race distance, you'd probably back McLaren because the tyre deck's been so much better over the season. But over a sprint race, I think Antonelli's got enough to hang on.
I think I'm going to go with Oscar, though.
Yeah, well, you got the colour scheme
Obviously,
right
I
for us.
dress like a papaya.
I was going to say, if you'd backed
So,
Antonelli, it wouldn't have been right.
Clearly, although the McLaren outfits this weekend are very fluoro as well. So I kind of
True.
have both. I could hedge my bets and go, it's one of the other two.
Well, we just saw, this is a little plug, we just saw the what's coming on Sunday, yourself and Zach.
Oh, yeah,
on
my
Sports
SC
Centre.
feature.
Yeah, we just saw a little glimpse of that. Fantastic. But I wonder whether you're saying that just because you and Zach got to see all of his cars in the garage.
My new bestie now.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like, I
yeah.
wanna take
We
that
need to
out
declare
for a
this, I
drive.
think, before.
Right,
But no,
exactly.
I think the reason I say Antonelli is for those reasons. I think that if he can get into turn one ahead, this is the kind of circuit where you can kind of keep that lead, especially like Lawrence said with the sprint. So
Yeah.
it'll be really interesting.
All right, guys, we have a lot of fun to watch tomorrow. Obviously, we're here all weekend, so we'll see you when we feel like getting in front of a camera next time.